Today marks exactly 9 weeks since my last spinal surgery. For those of you that follow me regularly, you'll know that in June of 2020, I had, shall we say, a relatively traumatic spinal fusion that I needed to have for a fracture in my spine. But as I started to recover from that, and you followed my journey on Instagram where I documented my rehab from essentially going to a point, starting at a point where I'd lost the use of my leg post-surgery to getting to a point of where I was getting extremely well-conditioned and strong, I started to pick up some other problems. And those problems were coming from some of the hardware that was installed in my spine, commonly known as the pedicle screws. And this is actually one of the screws that was in my spine. And I say was because all of my hardware, the pedicle screws and the rods, were removed 9 weeks ago. Now, a pedicle screw, what is it? So, if you look at this vertebral model here, you'll see the vertebral bone or the vertebral body, and these are the posterior elements of the spine, and they are connected together with really strong bridging bones called the pedicles. Here's one pedicle and this would be the other. Now, when they do a fusion, they need to put in posterior hardware or hardware that goes in through the back. And these are the pedicle screws that literally are drilled in through the pedicle, and they sit in the vertebral body that way. So if I show you from the top, that's a rough illustration of what it would look like. Now, those pedicle screws, at least in me, I had two on the left and then two on the right, and then they were joined by these rods. And these pedicle screws and rods essentially add scaffolding while the fusion takes place. And that fusion, in my case, was done by an insertion of a cage. So removal of the disc, insertion of the cage with synthetic bone, and that cage was screwed in to my L5 and my S1 vertebral bodies. Now, the problem was, at around about November, December of 2020, I started to experience some major discomfort / pain from the heads of the pedicle screws. And it was, again, just an unfortunate thing because the screws were placed perfectly well. In fact, I can honestly tell you that my surgeon did a world-class job. But as I was getting stronger, I was getting muscle tissue that was adhering to the back of the screw. And that's essentially because these are really big screws, and I'm generally not a relatively large individual. So the screw heads were sitting directly in my muscle tissue in my back. So what was happening was, as I was getting stronger and the muscle was sort of sticking to the screw head, I would lie down, as an example, at night, and that muscle would slide over the screw head and cause the most outstanding pain. Very, very transient, so quick, for about 4 or 5 seconds, but it would literally disable me to a point of where I couldn't move. And in January of this year, my surgeon and I got together, we scanned, we did a CT scan to make sure that the fusion was going really well. And we had made a decision that in March, he wanted to give it a few more months just to fuse a bit more, he would remove the pedicle screws and rods. Because as I said earlier, this is not the fusion, all right? This is the added scaffolding that allows the fusion to take place. So 9 weeks ago, I go in for the surgery and they removed the screws and the rods. The pain that I experienced from that surgery, again, is indescribable. So the reason being is when you put the pedicle screw in and your bone starts to fuse, bone grows around the screw itself and around the threading of the screw. So when they remove that, they essentially have to traumatize the bone once again and traumatize all the soft tissue around the back. And if you take a look at this other model here, you'll get to see that this is a model cut directly in the middle, and you'll see that the bone is really very vascularized with a lot of blood, and there's nerves and a whole bunch of stuff inside of that bone. So when you pull that out, again, it causes that trauma. So I experienced a whole host of different pain presentations, and it's something that I'll discuss in later videos. But the thing that I wanted to really impart onto everyone today that's watching, that's dealing with back pain, is that my rehab has had to go all the way back to the starting position. I was not able to just continue where I left off in January. So I've now had to start everything all over again. So my ability to do chin-ups and a whole host of things and squats like I was doing, as you would see in my last rehab video, that's all but gone. And now I'm really back to the most basic movements of walking and spine hygiene and short exposures to some core stability. I can't do too much because that really aggravates me, because I'm left with 4 really large holes in my spine, which over time will fill up and calcify and thicken. But I'm only 9 weeks, right? I've got to wait for the 3-month mark, and then I can start to load the bone a little bit more progressively and my muscle tissue, etc. So when dealing with back pain, it's like any other thing in life. You're going to have good times, you're going to have not so good times. And if you take the stock market as an example, if you buy a really good share, it's going to go up, it's going to go down, but hopefully the overall trajectory will be on an upward scale. So on that basis, if you're dealing with back pain, I want you to know something, that sometimes you've got to take a few steps back to go forward once again. Don't get despondent. Keep strong within spirit, keep strong within body, keep strong within mind. And I want you to know that if you're under the care of a really good professional, be it a medical or a healthcare professional, and they have ruled out any red flags, and you're still in pain, you're going to have good days and you're going to have not so good days. But on those not so good days, that's telling you that you just need to pull back a little bit. And on the good days, you can push just a little bit more. And you need to build up that perception to know when to push and when to pull back. Because there's no therapist in the world, there's no clinician in the world that's with you 24/7 that can tell you what to do every single day. You need to understand your spine, your body. How did you sleep the night before? Did you recover really well from the sleep? Did you wake up feeling fresh, and can you push a little bit more? Or did you have a relatively bad sleep where you know that you need to pull back for that day ahead so that you don't do too many exercises or you don't push your rehab too much? So this is just a message of encouragement to everyone, because the extent of the trauma that I've gone through, the extent of the pain that I've had to experience over the last 10 months of my life has been something that is literally so hard to describe to people. The dark times that occurred in the hospital and out of the hospital, I had to push through. And it's your strength of spirit, it's your strength of character, it's your strength of mind, knowing that there's no red flags, that you can push through. But with anything, appreciate the fact that nature also will guide you in allowing your body to recover, because you can't outwit nature, right? So no matter how strong you think you are, sometimes nature will give you a bad day just to pull you back and settle things just a little bit. Anyhow, I just wanted to say hi to everyone. I've been off social media for the last 9 weeks, so this is just a little entry back. More videos to follow. If you're dealing with back pain, understand good days are ahead. Just keep strong, keep resilient, strength of spirit, strength of character, strength of mind. And until next time, keep strong.